Hey guys, what's going on? Jake Truitt here. Welcome to my next episode of my podcast. I was going to do this earlier today, but I have been super busy today. Have not been able to get around to it, but let's dive right in. This week we are going to be talking about the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I am very excited to talk about this one here on my podcast because this is my favorite movie of all time. Yes, most people say, "Oh, uh there's a lot of great movies out there." And then they ask, do you have a favorite one or do you have a top five or whatever? And I always tell them, I do have a lot of movies I like, don't get me wrong, but if I had to pick one film that is my number one out of all the movies out there, that's my number one favorite, it would be The Nightmare Before Christmas. So let's dive right into talking about it. So, if you don't know what The Nightmare Before Christmas is, you clearly have been either not educated in what it is or have been living under a rock. And I say that because The Nightmare Before Christmas is one of the most famous and successful stop motion animated films ever made. The film is rated PG, obviously, so it is family friendly. It came out back all the way in 1993. It is a family film slash musical film, has a runtime of an hour and 15 minutes. So honestly, if you watch it the first time and you love it, you could watch it multiple times in the same day. I honestly do not know how many times I've seen this movie in my life. Um, there have been so many times where throughout the year I'm just like, you know what? I'm feeling bored. I'm going to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, there's a big controversial thing about this movie that has gone on for years, and that is this. People have wondered for years, is it a movie that is a Christmas movie? Or is it a movie that is a Halloween movie? And honestly, I personally think it's a movie that you watch whenever you want. Yes, the word nightmare is in there, symbolizing it's Halloween and Christmas, obviously for Christmas, but it is a movie that you can watch whenever you please, whether you want to watch it on a random summer day in July, or you want to watch it on a random day sometime in the winter, you can watch it whenever you want. Some of the places to watch it are you can rent it or buy it on Amazon Prime Video. You can watch it for free on Disney Plus if you have Disney Plus. You can also watch it on YouTube, Apple TV, Fandango at home, Google Play Movies and TV, or you could also get it on the iTunes Store. The movie ended up getting a 92% from Rotten Tomatoes, which honestly, for as old of a film as it is, that's actually a really good rating, because a lot of movies back in the 90s and whatever, some of them did not get very good ratings, but most of them did. Honestly, I think Rotten Tomatoes should have given The Nightmare Before Christmas 100%, because it is just a cult classic. It is literally one of the greatest films ever made in history. It is made by Disney, obviously. And for those who don't know what it's about, it says it here that it says the film follows the misadventures of Jack Skellington, Halloween Town's beloved Pumpkin King, who has become bored with the same annual routine of frightening people in the real world. When Jack accidentally stumbles on Christmas Town, all bright colors and warm spirits, he gets a new lease on life. He plots to bring Christmas under his control by kidnapping Santa Claus and taking over the role. But Jack soon then discovers even the best laid plans of mice and skeleton men can go seriously awry. So, that is what the film is about, essentially. It was directed by Henry Selick. If you were here for my last podcast, you'll know I talked about Coraline, also another Henry Selick made movie, and it was also written by Tim Burton as well. The film stars so many famous actors, such as, I hope I'm saying this last name right, it's Paul Reubens, yep, Danny Elfman, Chris Sarandon, Catherine O'Hara, Glenn Shaddix, Ken Page, Edward Ivory, Greg Proops, Susan McBride, and a bunch of other famous actors, but the most well-known ones there are Catherine O'Hara and Danny Elfman, and possibly Paul Reubens and Ken Page for some people. Danny Elfman, fun fact about this movie, this is one of the fun facts at least. Danny Elfman portrayed the singing part of Jack Skellington, but there was a different actor who did the speaking parts for Jack Skellington. So, Chris Sarandon, one of the actors I named, it says, in addition to writing the film's songs and score, Danny Elfman was the singing voice for Jack Skellington, with actor Chris Sarandon taking on the Pumpkin King's speaking voice. A lot of people thought that Danny Elfman spoke and sang as Jack, but like I said, it was two different people. So, a little fun fact there for you guys. So, here are some fun facts that I have here about this movie. One of them says, the film's songs were written before its script even was. And the songs in this movie, I just gotta say, are very, very memorable. They're very unique, very authentic, very catchy. I catch myself singing the songs all the time. Whether I'm in the car, whether I'm at home, whether I'm in public. Yes, I even have sang some of them out loud in public. And I have gotten some people to stare at me before, but I honestly really don't care because I'm having fun with it and I love those songs to death. So I'm going to do what I want to do. Another fun fact here, it says the movie is based on a poem that originally had just 3 characters. Now, I did read that somewhere at one time in the past as well. And I'm reading here now also, it says Tim Burton obviously did not direct the film. He was the producer and he was also the writer. I did say that Henry Selick was the director. About a lot of those stop motion films in that era, that Henry Selick was actually the director and Tim Burton was just the producer and the writer. Now, this is an interesting fact that I still can't wrap my head around to this day. It says that The Nightmare Before Christmas took over 3 years to make. Now, 3 years. That makes sense, though, because stop motion is really hard to make. Like, anybody who can make a stop motion project and make a whole film out of it, I, applaud them and tip my hat to them, because you have to think when you're making stop motion films, you have to make all the characters, all the stage designs for the scenes. It is press, play, like record, move, pause, record, move, pause, record, move, pause. You're making movements for every character, for every movement that they do. If they raise their hand up and wave at somebody left and right, they have to record, move, pause, every motion of their hand from going up, waving, and then going back down. So it's definitely really hard to make. It said there was about 120 people that were working on the project, and they had about 12 to 17 animators on the job as well, which is absolutely insane that it took that many people to make a movie that was an hour and 15 minutes, but it's very believable for sure. Now, a lot of people have said that they want The Nightmare Before Christmas to have a sequel, but according to what it says here, that says Tim Burton said he does not want the film to have a sequel. And the reason being is this, says, seeing as Burton owns part of the character rights to The Nightmare Before Christmas, he has been staunchly against creating a sequel of the film. Burton told MTV in 2006, and I quote, "I was always very protective of Nightmare, not to do sequels or things of that kind. Jack Visits Thanksgiving World or other kinds of things, just because I felt the movie had a purity to it and the people that like it." And I agree with that. Like, they did write a book that came out, I think, a few years ago. I think it was called Return of the Pumpkin Queen or something like that. I'd have to look at again. I can't remember off the top of my head. It definitely had Pumpkin Queen in the title. Or it was like something like Long Live the Pumpkin Queen or something like that. But yeah, I agree. Like, that book was supposed to be apparently a continuation of the story where Jack and Sally are married and a bunch of different events occur again in Halloween Town and they're thrown into a spiral of events again. But I don't think the movie honestly needs a sequel. Some fans would disagree, though. Some fans would say that, yes, we need a sequel. We need to see a continuation. But you got to think, this movie came out in 1993. Yes, I know they're currently doing a sequel to Beetlejuice, which I'm very excited for, by the way. But that's a different film. But as you said, because of the purity of it and stuff, and this film, The Nightmare Before Christmas, is so pure and so unique in its own way that, again, it falls under the category of not everything needs a sequel in this world. Most people think that everything needs a sequel. Some sequels are pretty good, don't get me wrong. But movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas, just leave it alone. No more sequels for it, or no sequels at all, I should say. And just leave it as it is. Just don't take that beautiful, pure story and ruin it by making a sequel, because nobody's gonna watch it if it gets ruined. You know what I mean? And those are the facts that I'm seeing as of right now. That's where I'll stop it with the facts. But The Nightmare Before Christmas is definitely a family friendly movie. Anybody of any age can watch it. It's more meant to be around for kids, but honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're a kid, whether you're a teen, whether you're an adult, whether you're even, in your 60s, 70s, or 80s. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a cult classic, like I said. It's fun and exciting and thrilling for everybody out there. And honestly, I think everybody, at least once in their life, needs to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas, because it is just such a beautiful movie. It's such a well written movie, such a well pieced together movie. And honestly, overall, it's so great. It's so wondrous and beautiful. And like, just me talking about it now in this episode of this podcast makes me want to rewatch it again for the bajillionth time, but which I'm probably going to do here at some point soon. Because it's a movie I love so much. Like, there's honestly times in the past, I'm not gonna lie, that during certain parts of the movie, just because of how beautiful a certain scene was, or because of how well made a scene was, or well thought out it was, or whatever, not gonna lie, there's times where I even get a little emotional. But they're happy tears, of course. They're not, sad tears. They're just happy tears, because the film to me is just so important and so beautiful, and it makes me happy, honestly, to watch it. And I know there's been a lot of times in my life where I've gone through some really rough times with different things, and watching something like The Nightmare Before Christmas really got me through those tough times. Like, if I was feeling sad or upset and I wanted to watch a movie to get my mind off of something, 9 times out of 10, or 9.5 times out of 10, I should say, I would pull up The Nightmare Before Christmas and I would just sing along to the songs and just forget about all the rough things I was going through at the time. And I know for sure it's a movie that, if ever I am, in a bad mood or upset about something, it's definitely a movie I can look to for um putting a smile on my face, and look to make me happy. And I guarantee you, if you've never seen it, you really need to go watch it, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just overall, it's a phenomenal movie. It's beautiful, it's wondrous, and I think, like I said, everybody at least once in their life needs to go watch it. And I promise you, if you have not seen it and you go watch it today or tomorrow after hearing this podcast, you will not regret it. And that is something I guarantee and promise. And with that, that concludes today's episode of the podcast. I know it was a little bit shorter of an episode. My episodes are going to vary depending on which film or show. I know I haven't done any shows yet, but I plan to. I just haven't thought of any that I wanted to do quite yet. But we will be doing shows as well in this podcast series, but it will mostly be movies. But yeah, with that, I conclude today's episode of Cinema Time. This has been your host, Jake Truitt, saying, when the movie starts, please be quiet and courteous and silence your cell phones, and enjoy the show. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.